What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for June 30th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery, and I was not expecting this big of a show today. But lots to get to, lots went down. Might as well start with the big story, go a little out of order. And tonight, 6 p.m., is when NBA free agency starts. News broke last night. I was at the rehearsal dinner, so I didn't really get to look too much into this yet. However, James Harden opted into that player option on his contract, which there's speculation that it was done in order for them to try to work on a trade for him. However, it just all of a sudden the Sixers' options just got much bigger. They have so many more options, and now, I mean, if they can do a sign and trade for another star, they could take on an expiring contract and maybe kind of punt this year somewhat, and then be able to spend after Toby, and then the expiring contract come off next year. There was rumors that Harden's preferred destination is the Clippers. It's not really anybody on the Clippers that I could see coming in and necessarily fitting with what they have now, but Nick Nurse does have a Kawhi Leonard connection. I don't know if Kawhi is an upgrade, though. I don't know. Damian Lillard, maybe he could go to Portland. Just so many different options now that he can have. And, I mean, worst case, you can't find anybody to trade him to. You either keep him on the roster so that way his salary comes off and maybe wait till the trade line. Maybe he decides he wants to sit out. If he sits out and you don't get anything for him while you're shopping a trade, that means they're going to drop in the standings and maybe have a shot at like a lottery pick or something. So there's just so many options. Honestly, it went from, okay, here we go, Sixers offseason, to now I'm full steam ahead. Like, I'm excited to see what happens. And it's very pivotal, though. They can't mess this up and do what the Sixers back in the day used to do and bring in a guy like Chris Webber, who is too old. And I'm looking at like a Kawhi maybe there. And Kawhi, I don't know if it's mentally he's checked out. There's just so many things. I'm just excited. Like, I need to really research now and look in to see contracts and just really nerd it out. But James Harden does opt into his player option, which opens up so many doors now for the Sixers. So, very, very excited about that. Flyers, I have not had a chance, obviously, because of being at the rehearsal dinner last night. But they, by all accounts, it seems like they had a very solid day two, added a lot of depth to their system. They did pick up a couple young goalies, which maybe that's a precursor of a trade of Carter Hart to get more assets. Not sure what the next moves are for Danny Briere, but I really, really like where this rebuild is headed so far. And as I have time to dive into that, I'll have more updates on that throughout the weekend. Big day for the Phillies. 3-1. That's their fourth in a row. Tawan Walker, 6 innings, 6 Ks, gave up the 1 run. Schwarber led it off with a homer. Harper was able to knock in 2 runs. The irritating thing, though, is 4 in a row now. They've been very hot, minus those 2 games against the Braves. The Braves and the Marlins both have been red hot as well. The Braves just swept the Twins. Marlins just swept the Red Sox. So the Sixers or Phillies, I'm all over the place. It's too many teams. But the Phillies have not made up any games. They're still 10 games back, which is extremely frustrating. Now, good thing is the Nationals are coming to Philly. We've talked the other day about the rivalry there, so you know the Nationals are going to be up for that game. But, man, if you could take 2 out of 3, I mean, the Braves and the Marlins are playing each other, so one of them has to cool down. But, hey, they're playing well. Pitching, like, it just the team is. We said it a few weeks ago. I believe that they turned the corner. I think they turned the corner. It's just a matter now of sustaining it and then figuring out the situation with first base and a 5th starter. But I want to celebrate the Flyers. Go to phillygoat.com. They have a wide selection. I was checking it out yesterday of orange and black. They call them the bully tees. They have 215 on them. I really like them. They have a lot of more stuff for the winter and fall, but you can always give it as a gift or whatnot. Flyers aren't your thing. They have every other team covered. So go to phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. Show your support for the Philly teams. It's going to be an exciting couple weeks here now that we have some basketball offseason to possibly look forward to. We shall see. Speaking of Sixers free agency, new Back to the Future drop this week. Be sure to go check that out. Take a dive into the best and worst free agent signings in Sixers history. That's available anywhere you get your podcast. Back to the Future with a PH. And be sure to check out the episode prior to that. Explains all the background of the Philly Sports Most Lovable Loser tournament, which kicks off tomorrow with an exciting matchup in the Eagles regional. So be sure to tune into tomorrow's episode for game 1 of the tournament. As I mentioned, we're going to go through the entire tournament through July and crown Philly Sports Most Lovable Loser on August 1st. So be sure to check both of them out. Like, subscribe, tell all your friends. All right, we're going to stick with the Flyers today. And on this day, back in 1992, the Flyers officially traded for Eric Lindros. They traded Steve Duquesne, Ron Hextall, Kerry Huffman, Mike Ricci, Chris Simon, 2 first-round picks, $15 million, and Peter Forsberg to the Quebec Nordiques for one Eric Lindros. That $15 million, by the way, was enough to cover the Nordiques payroll for almost 2 seasons. That's just to give you like a glimpse of how inflation has gone. But Lindros was a 6-time All-Star. He was the MVP in 1995, led the Flyers to the 97 Eastern Conference Championship. He did make the Hall of Fame. By the way, those 6 All-Stars were while he was with the Flyers. Obviously, he's in the Flyers Hall of Fame. His number 88 is retired. Unfortunately for Lindros and the Flyers, he's probably, for casual fans, I think people that watch hockey will get that he was just a phenomenal generational player. But casual Philly sports fans probably are going to remember him for the concussions, the fighting with Bobby Clark, his parents, Carl and Bonnie. There's the incident with the collapsed lung on the plane. Like there's just so many outside interferences that he's probably going to be remembered for. Carl and Bonnie probably led the way for us to be prepared for when Donovan McNabb's parents were heavily involved early in his career. But, I mean, that's probably what he's going to be known for. And the fact that Peter Forsberg became one of the all-time greats and was involved in that trade and led Colorado to a couple Stanley Cups doesn't necessarily help out Lindros too much, but it's not necessarily for his lack of effort. I mean, that was during a time when the Flyers didn't really have much consistent goaltending. It seemed like every year they were trying to figure out who the guy was. They had it with Hextall, who was a part of the trade, but unfortunately, Eric never did win the Stanley Cup. But on this day, back in 1992, Eric Lindros officially became a Flyer in a massive trade that truly changed the fortunes of both franchises. Quebec obviously ended up going to Colorado, won the Stanley Cups with Patrick Waugh, Peter Forsberg. Flyers just can never get over that hump. All right, finally, the last day of Rivalry Month. And I saved my favorite for last. And probably the big picture, people are going to say the Cowboys are the Eagles' biggest rival. But for my money, it's the New York Football Giants. The Eagles do hold a 93, 88, and 2 edge, including 3 and 2 in the postseason. Obviously, these are 2 storied franchises, 2 storied rivals. Obviously, now that the Eagles won a Super Bowl, some of those previous NFL championships come back into play. So between the 2 teams, 17 NFL championships, including 5 Super Bowls. But I think for the most part, this is a big geography base. Like, there's always Giants fans in it. Like, we're so close to New York that everybody knows a Giants fan. Whether or not they're originally from New York, their dad was from one way or the other, everybody knows at least one Giants fan from New York. Now, I know a couple that aren't from New York that I don't know why they're Giants fans, but everybody knows at least one Giants fan from New York. I'm convinced of that. And I think the geography plus being in the same division and plus being sort of the, if you look at it, at least like in the past maybe 50 years, the Eagles and Giants are like almost very similar in the sense that everybody talks about the Cowboys through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And the Giants had some good teams. The Eagles had some good teams. Now that I feel like a lot of these conversations now that the Eagles have a Super Bowl, you can actually have a legitimate debate with some fans about this. But I feel like they're very similar franchises in the sense that they're almost like the little brother to the Cowboys, or looked upon as the little brother. So I think that's why there's more of a connection there. Obviously, it's 90 minutes to New York or whatever it is, depending on traffic. But there's just so many historic moments, and I mean, I can almost argue that there's way more historic moments in the Eagles-Giants rivalry than there is the Cowboys. I mean, you have Benaric's hit on Frank Gifford when he said, "This fucking game is over," or "This game is fucking over." You had the Miracle of the Meadowlands with Herm, the Miracle of the Meadowlands 2 with B. West, the Miracle of the Meadowlands 3 with Mike Vick and Deshaun Jackson. In '88, the Eagles edged out the Giants for the NFC East crown. And then they obviously lost in the Fog Bowl. But Giants did win the '81 wild card and the 2000 divisional playoff. That was McNabb's first run into the playoffs. But then since then, it's been all Eagles, '06 wild card, '08 division, and of course that thumping last year in the divisional round. I feel like the Giants are always fun to beat, though. And it doesn't matter. Like the Cowboys, yeah, I mean, but it's the Cowboys. I feel like I like that rivalry better when the Cowboys are good and the games mean something. The Giants, I mean, maybe it was because Eli was there for so long and his facial expressions were just phenomenal. But the Giants could be 0-15 and we beat them and it still feels good to me. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just something about beating the Giants. That's why I saved them for last. You may disagree. Let me know how wrong I am and how the Cowboys this, the Cowboys that. But for my money, it's the New York Giants. And I'm going to score this one. Only time I'm doing this, I'm giving it a 6 out of 5. That's how much I love this. That's how much I love this rivalry. 6 out of 5. So the New York Football Giants are today's Philly sports rival. On this day back in '92, the Flyers officially traded for Eric Lindros. We'll have more on their day 2 draft picks as I'm able to kind of look through and process. I'm hoping to get some stuff done this morning before we have to meet out for the wedding. Very, very exciting time now in Sixers land. It went from to all right, let's see what we can do. So I will be, as I'm dancing my ass off on the dance floor tonight, will be checking my phone for updates on what the Sixers are going to do. Phillies look to keep it rolling against the Nationals at home. Whew, lots going on, but it's a 4th of July weekend. I know everybody's going to start going to cookouts and barbecues and parties and fireworks. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't boat and drive. Don't do something stupid. I want to make sure you're here to listen for many, many more years to come. So just be safe. Be smart. Go have yourselves a Friday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.